All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Black Experience. An amazing podcast. Thank y'all for tuning in. This is season 3. We are still in season 3, and we are exciting today because we have a very special guest. I have a very special guest with me today. Where do I begin? He is an educator. He's a motivational speaker. He's a mentor, a business owner, and a football coach. He is someone the city of Bellingham, WW, Western Washington University, and Seaholm High School know very well. Let's put our hands together and let's bring up Brian Young. Brian.
Wow, that was pretty phenomenal, right? I will say this going into this, because I don't want to go to school next week and hear it. Big shout out to Squalicum High School as well,
Throw that
where
in
I
there.
teach as well, and now we've got everybody happy.
There we go.
And we can move forward.
No enemies.
No,
Everyone
no,
feels
no,
shouted
no.
out.
Life is too
Everyone's
short
good.
to have enemies. And thank you for that fantastic introduction. It is my blessing to be a part of your show. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I'll give y'all a little background. So I actually met Brian a week ago, if not a little bit more than a week, at the MLK. There was a whole MLK event, and you and Isabella were on stage having a little dialogue. And as soon as I heard him talk, I was like, man, I got to have him on the podcast. And it has been a joy to, first of all, hear that speech and then kind of just get to know a little bit about you over the phone. But I'm just even more excited to kind of dive in, too, today. So
Awesome. Let's get after
let's
it.
do
baby.
it. Let's do
go.
it. So
Let's go.
yeah, let's kind of start a little bit with kind of just your background, if you want to share a little bit where you're from and then how you came to WW.
I'm an East Coast guy. I grew up on the East Coast outside of Washington, D.C. Went to Towson University, athlete, played football, all those great things. Really got out on the West Coast, came out to live with my dad for a while, was pursuing a pro football career in Canada, right? And went across the border, did that. Didn't quite work out like I wanted it to. However, really got to meet some great people, great experience. Got to Bellingham, basically. I had a friend who was like, hey, going across the border, Bellingham. Man, I get to Bellingham, and I'm like, holy mackerel, this place is like a government experiment. I was about 6 or 8 months behind in everything that I was doing. But at the time, the level of violence, like on the East Coast, is pretty damn high. So, looking at it from a perspective of, hey, this is a pretty safe environment. Kind of stuck around for a while. Long story short, you meet a girl, have some kids, and you know what? I'm always going to be here for my kids. So Here I am, right? The path to Western, I used to be an announcer, and I still am a PA announcer for college sports. So at the time, I was the men's and women's basketball announcer for Whatcom Community College. And I was raised in a house where basically, hey, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. If you know your worth, you know your value, go get it, right? Because the world doesn't meet anybody halfway. So the coaches from Western would come down to Whatcom to recruit. And I just took it upon myself one day to walk up to them and go, hey, this is who I am. Yeah. This is what I can do. I'd love to get an opportunity to come up to Western and become the announcer with the mindset of, hey, I was at a community college. I want to get to the next level. And so a space was created for me. Tony Dominguez, Linda Goodrich, Paul Madison, Brad Jackson, all legendary names up at Western in the athletic department. They actually, volleyball was how they wanted me to start. And here's a really interesting thing that I'll put out to anybody out there. A lot of times people get frustrated because it doesn't look like what they want it to look like. So I'm a basketball announcer. They offer me a volleyball position. I don't know anything about volleyball. And in reference to how to announce it, what goes on in the sport. So you'll hear some people take the mindset, oh, they wouldn't give me an opportunity. They wouldn't give me a chance. When preparation meets opportunity, that equals success. I've been preparing over and over and over. practicing my craft. Here's the opportunity. I either step up and take it, or I get bitter. Now, you heard me use that saying, don't get bitter, get better.
Get better. I've heard
So
that.
what I said to myself was, you know what? This can make me better. So I learned. I asked questions. Got up, started doing the volleyball. The door opened for basketball. So for a while, I did them both.
Wow.
And the volleyball was fantastic in the sense that I learned something new, got to do some things I hadn't done. I announced a regional playoff game. It was 2,500 people in Carver. It was a phenomenal event, right, to be a part of.
Yeah.
And that also led me, there used to be a professional team, an IBL team, International Basketball League in town, the Bellingham Slam. I was able to get that gig. And I've just gotten a lot of things off of that door opening for me. But that's kind of the path to get to Western, to be a part of that. I can't remember. I've probably been up here 15 years doing it. And, I've done all kinds of things up here. Not just, basketball related, but they've asked me to do some ceremonies. I've spoken at a few other things. So it was a win-win for me. But I was really happy the opportunity was there, and I was just ready for it and got after it.
Yeah. Brian, I got to ask you, because I mean, even doing this podcast is exciting, but man, oh man, do I get nervous when I'm up on stage, especially like presentations. I'm not the biggest fan.
Sure.
You've had to been like feeling nervous, especially that first volleyball game in front of like a 2,500 people.
I don't know that it's nervous for me. Like, so I think everybody has their comfort zone. Here's what makes me uncomfortable. If I receive an award, I get uncomfortable with hearing those things. Because, well, what do you say to that? Other than, okay, thank you, whatever it might be. That's when I get uncomfortable. If I'm going to speak to people, honestly, the bigger the crowd, the more comfortable I get.
Wow.
And maybe right before I go out, like couple minutes, the MLK thing, right? I watched the theater start to fill up, and I'm like, oh, this is great. I love it. Well, I was standing in the wings. And if you remember, I came up a little bit after everybody else.
Yeah.
Took my breather. I was like, oh, this is great. Once a light comes on, I calm down. And that's just taking the gift that God has blessed me with and just putting it to work. So for you, the fact that you step through that to do your podcast and overcome it, man, you grow. Anytime you put yourself in an uncomfortable position, you grow. So my challenge is, and I've learned things, like when I'm in positions where people are saying, hey, you're going to get this award, or you're going to do that thing, that's where I have to kind of sometimes take a deep breath and go, you know what, like, learn to just absorb it. Learn not to be uncomfortable with it. So, we all have our thing, but yeah, the speaking thing doesn't bother me.
No.
It's actually fun most of the time for me, so I enjoy it.
Lights, camera, action, and then you're ready to go.
When I was doing commercials, I used to love to hear the director go, "Hey man, that's one take, Jake." Yeah. You know what I mean? You get it right in the first take, and away you go. So, it's a blessing. I like it, and I enjoy public speaking to people.
Wow. Let's kind of talk about coming to Bellingham. I mean, obviously coming from the East Coast, that culture shock was right there.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first impressions, first of all, of Bellingham, and more importantly, any memories or any things that have happened in your years here in Bellingham that have stood out where you're like, wow, I did not see that coming?
Well, fortuitously, I was raised in a house that exposed me to a lot of things. My great uncle, Eugene McGowan, Dr. Eugene McGowan, was the first African-American professor at the University of Delaware. My grandmother, Dorothy Mae McGowan, was a honor graduate from Spelman College. Grandfather graduated from Albany State. My Aunt Carol from Michigan State. My mom from the University of District of Columbia. So I was fortuitously in a situation where my family exposed me to a lot of different things. Culturally, the great balance of people on the East Coast, whether it was people that look like me, people from different cultures. So that gave me a very well-rounded perspective of what life was, right? So I think when I came out here, you're keenly aware that, wow, there was a great disproportionate balance
Oh
of
yeah.
people of color. Because I can remember in the late 90s, literally walking through Bellis Fair Mall, kind of looking around going, wow. And you would see somebody, another person of color, and you would just be like, oh my God, man, who are you? Where are you from? And you would just talk. And it was just,
Treasure found.
it would just become a comfort zone, a reassurance. Like people always like to see themselves in things, right? So I've run into what I would say would be the normal situations that you run into within the United States. And you have to face this. The history of the United States is marred in racism, prejudice, injustice. Having said that, make no mistake about it, I still think this country is the best thing on the planet. We are striving to get to those foundational beliefs that all men are created equal, all people, I should say, right? And that there should be justice. Everybody should be able to pursue happiness without being impeded by the ridiculousness of judgment based on a religious belief, color or skin, whatever ridiculous things we put in place. Having said that, yeah, there have been some things in Bellingham, people, saying things that are inappropriate. I told you a story a little bit about when I was in a store.
You did.
And I heard that.
Yeah.
For a person like me, I look at those things and go, I would rather it happen to me than you because I will address it. And if I address it, being a little bit older than you, guess what? You may not have to go through it.
Wow.
So that's how I look at it. When those things have happened, I just go, okay, I'm built for this. I got this. I can handle this. Let me interject into this situation and do everything I can to make sure this doesn't happen to the next person, right? And the other thing, I don't internalize things. That's a very hard thing to do. Teaching at a high school, I watch a lot of students internalize things. In other words,
I don't mean to interrupt, but
yeah.
by internalize things, you're meaning you don't take things personally?
Well, no, I
that?
actually mean the opposite. So if I was to look at you and go, hey, that wasn't a very good podcast, or I didn't like that podcast. If you internalize it, you hear me say, I don't like you. I never said that, right? And so what I see is a lot of people in that high school, early college, that type of thing, they internalize things to be at them, right? So while that person who may be making that racist comment, whatever it might be, they may be targeting or throwing it at you, when you get a little bit more cerebral, you realize there's something behind that. Does it excuse it? Oh, hell no. But I understand that when people are looking for someone they think they can step on because they're being stepped on, they're going to pick those things out. Now, my family would tell you this. It's never what you're called. It's what you answer to. So I would look at you and go, you say what you want about me, but I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm always going to bet on the one sure thing I know in this life. That's myself. And you don't determine how I feel about me. The cat in the mirror determines that. So that's how I look at those things.
Tough.
So when I face those type of things, and, fortuitously, they're fewer than they are more frequent, then I just stand up to them. And I look at it and go, because remember I told you the reason I'm here is for you, for other people like Isabella when I was on that stage, because I want it to be a better situation for you than it was for me. And that's the same thing that my family did. I told you some of the stories about, my great-great-great-grandfather, what they went through. And, them dealing with that. So I could be sitting here with you. And we even talked about the people that were setting up here, how impressed I was that all these different cultures are working together, fluid, smiling, interacting, helping each other to be successful. That's the path that we want to get on and stay on. So if I can clear that way for you, you better believe I'm going to do it.
Wow. And you know what, Brian? I really appreciate that because, we have seen those strides being made where things are getting better. Like, again, things in this country are not perfect. But, man, have we made those progresses? And, I mean, even like we were kind of talking about the interactions right here, those things happen. They do happen, not just
Yeah.
on this campus around, but
Yeah.
maybe they're not as reported, let's say, by the media. We don't see that, and we just might see the negative stuff that happens
Sure.
sometimes. And
Sure.
when that doesn't happen, people are like, oh, wow, are things getting better? Are they getting worse? Are we worse now? And is America more racist than the 60s? Stuff like that comes out. But I
Well,
definitely know what you mean by that.
think, put your mind in this focus, right? There's no money in continuity, peace, and joy. There's no money in that. Everything's perfect. Everybody's getting along. There's no money in that. So the reality of it is that our society is highly based on I want, I want, I want. Can I make money on it? We're a blame-based society. And for a person like me, I'm a results-driven person. So here's my mindset. If we have a problem, I don't give a damn whose fault it is. Let's solve the problem first. Then we can go back and look at, okay, here's how we got here. But let's solve the problem first. So when I look at, and this is an odd thing to me when people go, we're this race, we're that race. Keep in mind, that was all done years ago, hundreds of years ago, to create division, to keep separation. Here is the bottom line. I believe this in my heart of hearts. Nobody has to tell me that I'm a person of color. Damn it, you can see it. And I wear it well, and I'm proud of that, right? So we don't even have to designate that out. Here's the bottom line. We are in a situation as human beings where if we don't start looking at this thing going, hey, what impacts you impacts me. Because the last time I saw, when a natural disaster happens, a hurricane goes through, it doesn't just knock on the houses of the people that are green. Damn it, it wipes out everybody. Everybody gets got,
Everybody.
right? So the first thing that has to happen is the mindset of people has to start changing. Like, hey, what impacts me impacts you. If I was to wake up today and I was to look at you and go, look, you know what? How can I make your day better? How can I make your life better? Now, it's a pie in the sky dream because, remember, I just told you, I believe people are stupid, but a person can be smart, right? And I always told you, right, hey, you can't have good till you see bad.
Right.
So you're going to have some of that. But the reality of it is, if I start getting up and I start thinking about making the world better for you, just like my family, my coaches, my teachers, if I start taking that mindset, I want to make it better for you, you know what? Is that going to help us or hurt us? And just imagine if everybody started doing that. If everybody started to just, and you don't have to go out of your way to do it, but what value is there in me saying something to you that will be demoralizing or degrading? What value of that is there? There's no value in it. And we have done, for nearly 500 years that this country has existed, the one thing, and my dad used to tell me this all the time, and as a younger guy I couldn't see it. Now I see it clearly. The biggest thing, the most destructive thing, is this ignorance of racism. It is could you imagine where this country would be if we'd have taken the collective mindset of all of the brilliant people in history and given them a platform to use that knowledge instead of having fear-based situations happen? They're going to take something from us. Man, I'm not trying to take anything from you. But collectively, we're always going to be better together. Collectively putting our minds, we're always going to work together. So we have to celebrate small victories and just keep pushing for that success. And pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And someday, damn it, I hope we get there.
Yeah.
I really do.
That's the dream.
Right.
Absolutely. Brian, where does this come from? Meaning, and when I say this, I mean just this, like the way you see things, the way you interact, and just this like drive to improve and help the younger generation. Did you have like a role model, let's say, growing up that inspired you to be like this and to have the vision and the attitude you have right now? Or what was that?
Well, I think sometimes things are built into you as a human being, right? And for me, my family was huge on it. Like I told you, I grew up in a house where I was challenged as a person to make sure that I mold my mind. And I told you before, like my lethal weapon is my mind. For as much as I have done as an athlete, Whether it be weightlifting, football, whatever it is, my lethal weapon is my mind. So I was always raised in the aspect of grow your mind, grow your mind, grow your mind. And someone did it for me, right? I just told you a couple minutes ago, I can remember like my high school coach, Coach Romeo. I can remember that man. Coach Green, right? I can remember that man. My college football coach, right? You know what? Like I remember these guys, right? And so when I sit back and I start to think about these guys, I go, like when I was in college, Coach Phil Albert, who I played for at Towson, he led by example. Like he was a guy of character. So I'm seeing all these great examples of this. I owe. You owe humanity, right? Like you want to leave behind a legacy, a footprint. And that's not a building with your name on it. Hey, great if you do that. What I want to leave behind is I want to leave behind a legacy that says he made it better. He took the time to pick people up, right? And so Maya Angelou would say, hey, you either use your abilities, your gifts, right, to pick people up or push people down. So, what kind of person do you want to be? So, that mindset comes from other people doing it for me. I know what my family went through. My grandfather, Robert L. Smith, man, baddest man on the planet to me for a long time, right?
Right.
I didn't know it at the time, but he was one of the first African Americans to ever have his own patent agency, his own patent business, right? He worked in the U.S. Patent Department all the time. Like, I didn't even know it at the time, right? But he came out of a little small town in Atlanta, Georgia, Cornelia, Georgia, and I was telling you about it, where he was going through the segregated part of town, and kids are throwing rocks at him. And his dad, my great-great-grandfather,
Yeah.
the damn town was named after him, right? Schools, and so he survives all of this oppression in the Deep South, creates his business platform, and entrusts in me, teaches me how to go out and sets a blueprint for me to go out. So when I get to the point, and I remember I was working as a operations manager for a recycling yard. And I was sitting there going, man, the hell with this, right? I'm tired of climbing in and out of steel bins. So I said, you know what? I don't know. I had a few bucks in the bank. I just went and pulled it all out. Said, I'm going to start a screen printing business. I'm going to bet on myself. I bought the equipment. Boom. And there were some nights I was on one knee, 4 o'clock in the morning, tears coming out of my eyes because I was frustrated. But
Wow.
a couple things that I knew,
Yeah.
right? Damn it. If anybody else can do it, I can do it. So get back up, wipe your damn tears off, and make this happen. So now I'm good, right? So I think a lot of those things are built into you from your experiences. And like I said, I have the mindset that I owe. Like I look at this podcast that you're doing, you're giving a platform for this type of dialogue. And you heard me say it at the MLK event. People are like, oh, well, speaking about this stuff is hard. And I'm like, this is not hard. This is not hard. Like, people just dialogue, right? But the one thing that you want to come from the dialogue, what are you doing about it? So I look at you, remember I said to you before, what's your why, right? So when you say those type of things to me, I go, my reason is because I owe, because I want to give back, because I received that blessing. I want you to get that same blessing too. And I also know it'll make the world better. It'll leave a great legacy, a great footprint of what I did. So, I want to be able to do that. It's a gift I have to do that. And hey, man, there's nothing better than impacting people in a positive way.
Tell me about it.
So,
Tell me about it.
let's keep it going.
Yeah, and it lasts throughout generations. It just keeps going.
Long after you're gone, right? It'll go, because everybody that I just talked to you about, they have gone on, right? But their dream, their passion, the things they instilled in me, every day, wake up and carry them with me everywhere I go,
Wow.
right? And it's instilled in my kids, and they're going to pick it up and they're going to carry it with them.
Wow.
So
Powerful. Brian, how does someone, let's say, who might be in a point of their life where they might be a new college student, they might be in college, they might be in the workforce, whatever, and they're like, I don't know what my why is. How does someone find their why?
So everybody has a different path. I will tell you, I don't even know if you look for your why. And the reason I say that is because remember earlier we were talking about miracles. I just kind of brought that up. People are like, I need a miracle. And they're always looking for like the heavens to part and, like something, a bolt of lightning to come down. And I pointed out to you, it's these little things, right? So when you are going through your stages of life, it's a big thing for you to just embrace those moments, learn, grow, continue to be a good, positive person. Do the right thing. As I say, like at my home, with my kids, hey, do good, trust God, right? And so here's what happened for me. I don't really know what my life's mission is. I'm just going along.
Really?
I'm picking up skills. It's kind of like I told you the story about how I became an announcer up here. I didn't know I was going to go through the volleyball thing, but I knew that if I just keep preparing, it was going to happen. So I'm going through just picking up skills, picking up knowledge. Hey, I had no intention of being a teacher. It just fell into place. It just happened that way, right? So, I had no intention of going out and becoming a public speaker. It just happened. People heard it. They're like, hey, come do this. So I'm watching, of all things, I was watching kind of one of the morning football programs. And I heard a player say his life's mission was to impact people. And football was just a venue for him to impact people. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, I didn't plan to be a teacher. I didn't necessarily plan to be a football coach. But I said, wow. I was always told and taught in my house, you'd rather have influence than affluence. See, people are always chasing the dollar. But you'd rather have influence. Because if you have influence, you can move millions of people. So I started looking back and I went, damn, that's why I got this skill set. That's why I can sit down and have these conversations.
Wow.
Because every day I touch 100 different students. Every day, 100 different students, right? So I go through a week, 500 students I touch.
Adds up.
Then I go through 5-6 years of that. Now you're talking thousands. Then I coach 60, 70 kids on a team every year. So it became very crystal clear to me.
Yeah.
This is what, my mission is. This is why I have this particular skill set, and I need to use it. Because if you don't use it, it goes away. So every opportunity I get to make it positive, like, you were asking me, hey, can we do the podcast? And I was like, hey, just set it up. I'll figure it out, right? I was actually just at Home at the weight room, I was talking to another coach, and I was like, hey, I got to do this podcast. And he's like, well, what's that about? And I was like, you know what? We're just going to talk about, who we are, meaning people of color in Bellingham, and just what that experience means. But I said, here's the best part. It may start off like that, but it's going to morph into two guys just having a conversation about life, about being better, about how you can move forward in life, regardless of who you are, regardless of what culture you're in. Don't worry about finding your why. Just keep getting your skill set. Keep building your skill set. And when the time's right, it's going to be real clear to you. When the time's right, it's just going to pop out. And damn it, when you see it, go for it. No risk it, no biscuit. We ain't ever scared, right? We just keep getting up, right? So this right here, remember when I was talking to you about your why, right? Because that's important. I ask people that a lot, and it catches people off guard. So people say, well, what's your why? And like I just told you, somebody did it for me, so I owe, right? And I have the talent to do it. That's the gift I have. So, hey, you take a gift, you don't take it lightly. So you put it to work. And you put it to work for a positive reason. So that's what's happening with that.
Man.
Don't be stressed about finding your why. Just continue to grow, continue to develop your skills, continue to trust the process, and when the time is right, it will reveal yourself crystal clear to you.
You'll just know, pretty
You'll
much.
know.
You'll know.
You'll know. Yeah, you'll know.
Because I used to have, like, honestly, when I used to think about my why, I was like, oh, wow, all these people that know their why already, like a Denzel Washington
Yeah.
or some other motivational speaker. I'd be
Yeah,
like, oh,
it
yeah, probably
happens.
the heavens parted and they had like a once in a lifetime type of, that, like,
It
that
may
used to be my
happen.
vision of
It
how.
may happen, but you already have a once in a lifetime thing.
Yeah.
You just said at the start of this is season 3. Guess what? I don't have 3 seasons of a podcast. I would bet you this much, right? Go outside of your circle that you're in. Ask a bunch of people, hey, how many podcasts have you done? Don't worry, I'll wait, because you know what they're going to tell you? Maybe 1, maybe 2. You got 3 seasons. You don't even know. You're already on your path. You're looking at it through somebody else's eyes. You have eyes in front of your head so you can see where you're going, not where you've been. So look at where you're going, not where somebody else is going. Stay on your path, and you would be surprised what you've already done that you don't even know you've done.
Because, like you said, it's the small moments, and you don't even
the
know.
little things, baby,
There
and
we
they
go.
add up to all the big things, right? 3 seasons, hey, your focus is right, your dedication to it is right, you're expanding your footprint. Remember we talked about that? You met me, I talked to you, hey, I teach a marketing class. I will help you expand your footprint. Like, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
Small things, little pieces you put together. You happen to show up in an MLK event, somehow here we are. Little things.
It's funny because I woke up and I was just scrolling through Instagram and I'm like, MLK event from 10 to 2. And it was already 11. I was like, shoot, let's go.
So in your mind, stop for a second and think about that. What would be the odds of that? What would be the odds of you seeing that at that particular time in history, you making that decision and you getting there and being impacted by me being so this is what I'm telling you. Like, people are looking for these miracles. To me, that's one right there. Because that didn't happen to 100,000 other people that day, but it happened to you.
It's crazy. Yeah,
Very much so.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Brian, as we kind of close up the podcast and wrap it up, and you've already sprinkled a lot of golden nuggets throughout our interaction already. But man, I got to ask you this. What are some advice? It could be a piece of advice, it could be multiple, but anything that you would advise the younger generation so that the generation after us, let's say, will have it even better.
Yeah.
And I'm not even just talking the Black experience too at this point. It's just anyone, like, what
No,
advice?
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, it's really, and I talked a little bit to you about this. When I grew up, it was a much more visually violent time. And by that, I mean, you could turn on a TV, you would see things on TV, whether it was a war happening someplace or, some brutality somewhere. And then they kind of started thinking, hey, that's not really the kind of stuff that, we should be showing, right? And then the George Floyd situation came out, and it was like, oh my God, right? And what that reminded me of was we still have a long way to go. So I grew up at a time where you learned to be resilient. You learned to get tough. You learned to stand up for things. What I would say to you and your generation is, right, make sure that when you're standing up for a cause, you're looking for a result. You're not just joining a march to be a rider who's just riding along. You're not just standing up, waving a flag or putting a poster up because you want to be seen. You're not just posting something on social media because you want likes, you want clicks, right? Have some impact. Have some impact in what you do, right? So, like I said before, I'm results driven. And when a problem arises, I'm not looking for blame. I don't give a damn about that, right? Because we all make mistakes. And if I want to have forgiveness from you or compassion from you or understanding from you, damn it, I better give it to you. What I look at is I go, we need a better result. So that MLK thing, one of the reasons I did that is, right, don't talk about it, be about it. You want a different result for the interactions of people in our community, get off your behind and do something to make that happen. So by getting up there and talking to people, by putting myself out there, so to speak, by getting in front of a group, and wow, what an eclectic group that was. So I was really impressed with that, right? By getting it out there, I had people come up and talk to me. I don't know who the hell they were, right? But they were just talking to me like, hey, I never thought about it like that. Hey, I never saw that. And so that's what I would encourage you in your generation of people. Look, make what you do count. Make what you do count. Don't make it be about getting, like I said, likes on social media or whatever the hell that is. Make what you do count. And it doesn't have to be some over the top, huge, broad thing. Because we talked about this with this podcast. Where are you going next with this? What's your next move? How are you going to take it from this platform to a different platform and have broad scope impact? Remember, I told you, have different people on the show. Bring people from outside of this culture to sit in this chair and exchange those ideas, because you get a whole new audience. You'll impact a whole new group of people. And you'll bring awareness. There'll be a group of people who go, oh, I didn't even know that. And when they see somebody that looks like them talking about it, they will go out and say, oh, it is okay for me to have that conversation. And then I would look at you and again go back and go, does that help or hurt? Obviously that helps, right? Okay. So then if I was to give people, because I see this a lot, stop talking to yourself in negative connotations. I hear it all the time at school, right? If you know you can do something, you don't have to be asinine about it. But if you know you can do something and you believe in yourself, say that. Have self-respect. And what that means is this: speak to yourself in positives. If I ask you, are you good at your podcast? You might want to look and go, well, I don't want to. Hey, look, you can look at me and go, look, I'm going to get better, but I think I'm doing pretty damn good right now. Nothing wrong with that. Speak to yourself in positives. Right? I can, I will, I must. And you do it every damn day. I can overcome this. I will get better at this, right? I must accomplish this. Too many times I hear people speak to themselves in negative connotations, in condescending verbiage. You shape your life by your thoughts. You tell yourself that, you damn sure better believe that's
Your thoughts,
what
your words,
you better believe
all
that,
of it,
right?
yeah.
So you talking about going on stage when I was nervous, right? Like I will speak to myself in positives. You know what? I got this. I'm gonna be okay. No matter what happens out there, I do it all the time. Like when I'm public address announcing games, be a new DJ, the student at Western intern, they're shaking and trembling and nervous. And I'm like, hey man, I got you. There's nothing you do here I can't cover up. I got this mic. Everything's going to be fine. Because I want them to have some belief. You shape your life by your thoughts. Speak to yourself in positives. Because trust me, man, there's so much negativity out there in the world.
There's already enough.
People will do everything they can do to keep you down. Misery loves company, and that's a fact, right? But as soon as you stand up, right, and you start looking at, people get, I'm afraid to fail. That's ridiculous. You're going to fail. You're going to make mistakes. But here's the thing you look at. Hey, if it doesn't go right that day, you know what you say? You know what? That's not how to get there. She just got smarter, right? You don't get bitter, you get better. So speak to yourself in positive is a big thing. It's a big thing, right? Because there's so many people who just self-destruct, just speak to themselves. And it breaks my heart when I see students do it. It breaks my heart because I just look at them and go, hey, man, you're never going to be anything more than what you tell yourself. Interesting with it, like my marketing class, a lot of times I'll start it off, first day of class, I'll say, hey, I'm going to give you a scenario. Who in this classroom can see themselves as a millionaire? And I'll watch the hands. And I'll see it, and then I'll give them a couple minutes, and I'll say, well, if you didn't raise your hand, guarantee you this, you're probably never going to make it. Because if you can't see yourself as that, why would anybody else? I ask that same question at the end. You better believe I get more hands that go up.
There we go.
Yeah, you've got to be able to see it, in yourself to be able to do it. So that's what I would tell you. And dialogue.
Yeah.
Lots of dialogue. The art of conversation is gone. After the MLK thing, I was impressed with the fact it was you and another young man. You guys stood, you waited. And
I had just met him right there.
yeah, and then we
Yeah.
just chopped it up.
Yeah.
Right? Well, because we're so addicted to these handheld computers that we call cell phones, we've lost the ability to just conversate,
Just talk.
articulate things, right, to each other. And it could be anything, right? But that's an art. That's a skill. That's a talent. And if you don't develop it, you won't have it. So then it does become uncomfortable. I don't really know what to say. Right? So dialogue. Have conversations, and have conversations with people outside of your comfort zone. People who don't think like you. People who don't look like you. People who, are older, younger, right? Remember I told you today, you can learn from anybody. You can watch a small child, 6 months old, and learn something from them. So, have those conversations. Dialogue as much as you can, right? But, outside of that, man, just do you.
That's it.
Do you. Be yourself. Do you,
Man.
right? Live fearlessly. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
That's
so
good.
You
That's
know
good,
what?
Brian.
It's
My
good.
brain is just full of so many nuggets, man. I gotta go back and rewind
No.
this a billion times to just get all of them.
I think one thing you keep this in mind, and Richard Pryor, the great Richard Pryor, right? Awesome comedian, right? He had so many gems of wisdom, like they went overlooked. But he would tell this joke, and he was talking like to an older guy, and the guy was giving this dude a problem about being older, and the old man looked at him and said, "Hey man, you don't get to be old being a fool." He said, "Drive by a cemetery. There's a whole lot of young people in there that are dead. I bet you they would trade places with me." And I've always kept that in the back of my mind. And I've gone, hey, wisdom can be found at any age, but you would be fascinated as a younger person just talking to someone who's older than you, whether it's a homeless guy in the street, right, or a doctor in the biggest hospital in the world, because just that life wisdom that they can impart to you is fascinating. I love talking to people, but man, because I told you like all the times I have a conversation with my grandparents and all that. I love that because man, they will tell you stories, and you'll go, what? Like I was fascinated growing up.
Yeah.
Listen to them because I couldn't wrap my mind around the stuff that they endured in life because it wasn't that. I was going to do my own things, but it wasn't nearly that. Right?
Yeah.
And so I look at, the situations like, so you dialogue, like you and me have talked, right? And I told you I was fascinated by your background because I was like, that's a whole nother element.
Yeah.
But I would know nothing about that unless we dialogued. But I'm smarter for that now. I'm better for that. So people, just talk to people. Man, get out. Open your damn mouth, right? Put your phone down for 5 minutes and, hey, man, who are you?
Yeah.
Find out a little bit about people.
To be a human.
Right? That's
that
awesome
simple.
that you said that. Humanity is a lost art now. And the more we get back to that, the more I see people, because I see students in school who don't even know what the person next to them, they don't even know what the person's name is. And I'm just like, wow, man, this is insane. You got another human being sitting next to you. You haven't even taken the time to like, well, who are you? We're sitting at the same damn table, and we're going to be here for 4 or 5 months of a semester. So, that dialogue, we got to get it. But keep this in mind. You know what? The path to real success for us in humanity is way less complicated than we're making it. It really is. Like sometimes I look at some of the stuff and I go, damn, man, we go out of our way to make this hard, right? And it really just comes down, hey, if I want respect from you, then I need to extend that to you. And if I extend that to you, then I have created a platform for you to extend that back. And if people are reciprocating that, that's awesome. So, that homeless person on the street, you don't have to disrespect them. I don't, if you don't want to give them money, whatever, but right, you don't have to disrespect them. You can still acknowledge that they're a human being, right? Because by the grace of God, there could go you. That person that may have a different religious belief or a different sexual orientation, what the hell do you care about that, right? That's that person's right. And if they're not doing anything that is preventing you from moving forward, right, in a humanitarian fashion with your life, what's your problem? Right? And that's really just rules I live by.
Yeah.
Because I don't care. Right? I'm more concerned about how you treat people. Because, the old saying that says people will remember much more about how you treated them than anything you said. Right? And that...
Because that ties in with with how they feel, how you made them feel, right?
That's fascinating.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, and you know what? I can tell you facts, because I have students come back, I have players come back, and they'll say, "Hey, coach, do you remember when you said this to me?" And honestly, dude, I can't remember. I can't remember.
You don't remember?
I had a family at Squalicum during COVID. I was driving around the houses dropping off spirit gear to people that ordered it online. And Chris Rossalelli, who organized the MLK thing, he sat down. I didn't even recognize who he was in the initial meeting, right? And so he sat down. His daughter comes in. I'm like, what the hell's Lexi doing here, right? And I was like, oh, my God, that's your dad, blah, blah, blah. So him and his wife, they tell me this story. When I dropped off the hoodie, they cried. That was their first daughter going to high school. It was COVID. They were so disappointed for her that she couldn't go the first year. They cried that I would take the time to come out and drop this stuff off. And I said to them, welcome to the Storm family. And they never, and I can tell you right now, I don't remember that. But they cried. And I sat back, and that's where that thing, people will remember how you made them feel. And those type of things are powerful. So, make those the things that are important.
Wow.
That's it, man. I don't know any more than the next guy, right? But I do know a couple things. Like, you give love, you'll get love. You give respect, you'll get respect, right?
There we go.
And you keep doing this. You keep building your format. Now, understand this. When you go Hollywood, I want my cut. Okay? Yeah, I'm just letting you know.
10%? 15%?
We'll negotiate that when I see
Okay.
what the bottom line figure is, right? Super proud of you for putting yourself out here. Super proud of you for creating this platform for people, right? Mm-hmm. And keep doing it, because this is a powerful thing. Mm-hmm. This is a big step forward in the sense that you are creating a platform that's open for everybody, and this is the kind of stuff that moves us forward. So I appreciate that, and thank you very much.
Appreciate you hopping on, Brian. No, it has been a treat, man. It's been a treat. Any last minute plugs? Anything you want to throw out there?
We're good to go, baby.
You good to go?
I think we've chopped it up enough.
There we go.
Giving them, something hopefully they can chew on a little bit, and on to the next episode.
Absolutely. So there you guys have it. Hope you guys enjoyed this awesome episode. As I mentioned in the beginning, this is season 3. Season 3 will continue. Guys, this is special. I learn something new from every guest, and I've taken so many golden nuggets. And like Brian said so many times, it's not just what you learn, but it's also applying it, taking that action step. So I challenge you guys to do that. Stay healthy, help each other out, love each other. And until the very next episode on the Black Experience, we'll catch you guys later. Peace. What is up, y'all? Thank you so much for tuning in to that episode. Make sure to click the subscribe, follow button, as well as the bell to get notified on all my new content that is coming out every Wednesday and every other day. And make sure to click that link in the description down below to get access to all my socials and any other platforms that I have my podcast on. And until next time, y'all, peace.